On behalf of the Director General, Ministry of the Public Service, I'm happy to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Surfing the Waves of Change. My name is Sheldine Santwali, Senior Human Resource Officer with the Learning and Development Directorate, Ministry of the Public Service, and today I will be your moderator. This webinar is brought to you by the Learning and Development Directorate in collaboration with the Potter Center and facilitated by Mr. Tony Olton. Today, we explore how using your emotional intelligence allows you to successfully navigate the current disruption of your lives and prepare for life in clearly what is going to be a new normal. We would really like to hear from you and would like to include your voice in the conversation. But before we get there, here are some rules of engagement that we want to share with you. We encourage you to mute your microphone, disable your video, pause and minimize distractions as much as you can, focus fully on the presentation, reflect on your own experiences, and of course, participate as much as you can, and share what you've learned in the chat. This helps us to achieve optimal benefit from our interaction by reducing feedback and increasing bandwidth. This session promises to be very interactive with time allotted for activities and a question and answer segment. You'll be given the opportunity to use the chat feature to share your comments. Our team will be monitoring the chat space to share your questions and comments with the facilitator. At this point, I would like to introduce our presenter for this webinar. He is Mr. Tony Olton of the Potter Center. Tony Olton is a former educator, vice president of sales with a regional life insurance company, leading the sales team in 6 Eastern Caribbean territories and a reserve officer in the Barbados Defense Force. He founded the Potter Center, a regional training and human resources development consultancy in 1998 and is today its executive director and principal consultant with a growing local and regional clientele. Tony brings a rich background of training and management experience to his seminars and workshops and is today regarded as a highly competent soft skills trainer and organization development consultant. He holds a technical teacher's training certificate from the Eardiston Teachers College and the Barbados Community College, and the Life Underwrites of Canada Sales and Service Training Certificate, the Agency Management Certificate from the Agency Managers Training Council of the USA, and is a certified emotional intelligence practitioner, educator and assessor with 6 Seconds, a leading international emotional intelligence training consultancy and network. He has completed graduate studies in management at the University of the West Indies and the psychology of work at the University of Leicester, and is a certified John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. He is also a certified competency-based trainer and certified assessor, internal and external verifier. He's certified by the Institute for Cultural Affairs in Group Facilitation Technology, is a certified life coach, holds advanced certification in holistic counseling, and is a master neurolinguistic programming practitioner. He's certified as a Myers-Briggs Type Indicator practitioner by the American Management Association and in the Savvy Consulting Wave suite of psychometric assessments. He has completed the Franklin Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and Unleashing Human Potential Professional Development programs and is a certified Hospitality Assured Business Advisor. Tony is a member of the Caribbean Institute of Certified Management Consultants and chair of the Caribbean Facilitators Network. Tony leads a team of consultant associates and serves a mixed private, public sector, and not-for-profit organizations. Tony makes learning both fun and memorable and has earned an excellent reputation for delivering training with high and sustained impact. His skills as a motivational speaker are highly regarded and in much demand. Tony assigns much of his personal development and competence as a trainer, facilitator, and as a motivational speaker to his many years spent as a Toastmaster and proudly bears the designation Competent Communicator. Tony volunteers much of his time and resources to many civic organizations and was awarded the Barbados Family Planning Association's 2015 Lady Grace Adams Award as its Volunteer of the Year. He regularly attends international personal development and leadership conferences. We now invite Mr. Alton to share his presentation with us. Do enjoy your session. Mr. Alton?
Thanks, Charlene. I'm just gearing up my presentation and I'll be up in a couple of seconds. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. It is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be sharing with you. Just confirm that you are seeing the presentation screen.
Mr. Alton, you can use the opportunity
Yes.
to just go from the beginning so you can go into presenter mode. But yes, we can see your screen.
I am not seeing what you, I'm not sure. Okay. Are you seeing the full screen or the,
So just
again, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to share with you. Okay. So this morning, we are engaging in the webinar, Surfing the Waves of Change. Surfing the Waves of Change. I am not sure what is happening because the slides aren't moving.
Mr. Alton, if you go
Yes.
to the top bar and you click from the beginning.
Learning objectives this morning, we want to give you an opportunity to be able to share, to connect and share feelings. That's important. One of the key skills of emotional intelligence is emotional literacy. The ability to identify, name, and be able to converse about what you're feeling. There's high therapeutic value in doing that. We want to provide you the opportunity to develop a framework for effectively managing yourself, given the disruption you're experiencing in your lives. And because this too shall pass, we also want to work with you in ways that allow you to develop the wherewithal to be able to engage in what was previously described as the new normal post-COVID-19. To start this morning, then, I'm going to ask you to get yourself in as comfortable a position as you can. Make sure that your feet are flat on the ground. Best if you are using your headphones. If you don't, that's fine. It's just the headphones a little bit better for this exercise. And just close your eyes and take a deep breath. Take a really deep breath. Take it in as deep as you can and hold it. 1, 2, 3, and then slowly release. In through your nostril and out through the mouth. Take another deep breath. In through the nostril, take it deep, and out through the mouth. Now focus your attention on your body, starting with the toes. In your mind's eye, cast your mind's eye to your toes. First the left foot, then the right foot. Then work your way through both feet and bring your attention to your ankles. Just see what that sensation is like, what the feeling is like at your ankles. Probably do a little wiggle at the ankles. Now focus your attention at the back of the feet as you come up towards your calves. What do calves feel like? First the right, just focus your energy and attention there, and then the left. Now work your way up the legs as the legs rest against the seat of the chair. Just connect with that sensation. First the left, now move your attention to your right. And work your way up through your buttocks as you sit. Now up to the upper body and go straight for the heart. Just linger there for a while and sense the beat of the heart. Oftentimes we put so much of our attention on what is going on outside of us. In emotional intelligence, we say when you can't go outside, when you're having difficulty treating to the outside, then you go inside, connect with yourself. Just connect with the heart as the rhythm of its beat. And then focus your attention on as you continue to breathe and breathe deeply, focus your attention on the rise and fall of the chest. Just feel that rhythm. Don't force it, just observe it. Go to your back and go for the kidneys this time. Just focus your attention in the area of your kidneys, both the left and the right side. And slowly come up towards the shoulders. As your mind's eye moving your attention up to your shoulders. Perhaps what the old Bayesians call a limbering of the shoulders, just a roll backwards. And then cast your attention all down the back of the arm, right to the elbows. As your elbows sit, what is the position sense of your elbows? And then cast your attention to your wrists. First the right, then drift over to the left. And now to the fingers. First the left, then the right. Perhaps you might feel the pulse at the tips of your fingers. And work your way back up to the elbows. Back up to the shoulders. Perhaps a little twist of the neck to the left. Right over. Back to the center. And then go over to the right. Stretch it. Come back to the center. Then one more time over to the left. Stretch it. That is the neck. Come back to center. Last time over to the right. Stretch it. Come back to the center. Now go for the temples. Perhaps you may feel the pulse there as well. Then focus your attention on your ears. What do ears feel like? Not what you think they may feel like, but go for what they feel like in this moment. And as we get ready to close with this exercise, think of some moment in this week, some experience you've had this week that you are truly grateful for in your life, thankful for. Something has happened that when you reflect on it, you said yes. And there's an attitude of gratitude, of thankfulness that you had that experience. Just think about that experience for a while and that sense of gratitude. And now deliberately take one more deep breath in. Deep. Hold it. 2, 3, 3. Then slowly release out through the mouth. Another deep breath in. Hold it. 2, 3. Let it out. Just open your eyes. Stop for a moment and hear one or two persons who may want to just comment on the experience. Any volunteers? Don't all rush to the mic. Any volunteers?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Allison.
Hi, Allison.
I experienced a feeling of tranquility.
Absolutely. On the inside?
Yes.
Yes. Anybody else? Take a few more, 2 or 3 more. The thing about emotional intelligence is that not that what is going on the outside is not important, but what is more important is what's going on the inside. Because that is going to inform how you respond to what is happening on the outside, whatever it is. And so you want to get to a place where in the midst of the storm, you can create calm in your life. And out of that calmness, you can become strategic in your response. And that is what today is about. So the Prime Minister announced last night that effective Tuesday, we can all return to the beach for our swims and those who go to the beach on a pretty regular basis. Didn't anticipate that quite fully, so I brought the beach to you this morning. So we're going to go to the beach, and I'm going to show you a clip. This is a clip that in preparing this webinar, I was trying to find what would be a good metaphor to, at the front end of the webinar, sell what this webinar is about. And I came across this very powerful scene. So tell me what you see. This is how lows, whatever can go wrong with them.
I see beauty.
No, not that's the garden.
Mm-hmm.
No, what is? Are you seeing the? There's a scene at the sea. Are you seeing that now?
No, I'm not.
And if I may, Mr. Alton,
Yeah.
2 of our participants shared in the chat in response to your first question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to read what they had shared. I felt happy and calm thinking about the positive things that happened to me this week.
Uh-huh.
And one other individual shared just relaxing of the mind.
Yes.
So those
Thank
were
you,
2
most kindly.
contributions. You're welcome.
Yes. Thanks. Are you seeing the sea now? The waves?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. So we're at the beach. And tell me what you see. Don't overthink it. Just tell me what you see as this scene rolls backward and forward. What do you see? Again, don't all speak at the same time. Let's go. Can I have some volunteers, please?
A mass of water with people surfing.
Yes. Okay. You know anything?
I can see calm, and I can also see
some danger.
waves.
You see danger. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Lots of danger.
lots of danger.
These waves look like anywhere between 25, 30, 35 feet. These are some humongous waves. And you know, Bajans, we said, see ain't got in the back door.
That's right.
And so when I see
waves.
this, I see the danger that you see. I see the torrent of the wave, the power of this wave. Yes, still I see these men and women, I assume there are women there as well. This is what they live for. That in spite of the danger, in spite of the tremendous power of this wave that could wipe them out, that there is a knowing that they have, there is a skill that they have that allows them to master, to successfully surf, carve the path through the wave that they desire to carve, and ride the wave for all it is worth. And so today's webinar is about what do I need to know? What perspective do I need to have? And what skill or skills must I develop so that, like these surfers, I too can surf the waves of the winds, the disruption that is currently being experienced in my life, in the lives of those who I care for, in the lives of my colleagues. We're going to use, as I said earlier, the emotional intelligence framework. We're using that because we know that while people drive performance, it is emotions that drive people, that everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do has an underlying mix of emotions that are driving that thing that you say, that thing that you think, that thing that you do. So let's talk about feelings. The question then is, can you identify the feelings you've experienced during this time of disruption, these last almost now 8 weeks in our lives, 8 weeks actually in our lives? That's important because emotions are messages from you to you about you. Emotions are ethereal, they're actually chemicals that your body generates that sends you a message. So if you can understand the language of emotions, then you can speak their language and you can then make strategic decisions about your response. So we have to come back now and talk about understanding the emotions. What emotions have we been experiencing during this time together? What I've now put on the screen are what we call the 8 core emotions, and this derives from the work of a man called Robert Plutchik. He describes, if you look towards the leaf, that leaf flower-looking graphic, there he captures in the circle that says joy, trust, fear, surprise, he describes those as the 8 basic or 8 core emotions. Now, whatever emotion we are having, that emotion is a degree of one of the 8 or a combination of more than one of the 8. So for example, a core emotion is joy, a core emotion is trust, love is a mix of the emotion of joy and trust. So I don't want to get too deep into today's conversation about emotions and Plutchik's model. What I'm going to simply ask you to do is to look at the 8 that I've highlighted here in the other graphic. Joy, trust, anticipation, fear, surprise, sadness, anger, and distress. Look at those 8. We're going to put up a poll, not yet, we're going to put up a poll, and we're going to ask you to identify any and all of the emotions from this list that you've experienced. Make a note of the ones you selected so that when you go to your breakout rooms, you can take that list with you into your breakout room, because you're going to have the opportunity then to share with your colleagues the emotions that you have experienced. So the poll has been posted. Could you please indicate, select all the emotions, any and all of the emotions you've experienced, and only then hit submit when you've listed all of the emotions that you have experienced during this time of COVID. So the poll is open. You can start responding to the poll. There are currently 81 persons in the webinar. Joanne, what's the participation like so far?
So far, 47 out of 78 persons have
78.
participated.
Okay. Can we get that number to at least 60? 65, that'd be great.
Okay. You're currently at 55 of 78.
Great. If we get to 60. So,
We're currently at 60, and I will, if that is fine, I'll end
that's
the
fine.
poll in
End the
5
poll.
seconds.
Okay, there you go. So make a note of the ones you selected. There's the results. So there's been a lot of fear. That has been followed by some sadness, some anticipation, some joy, some distress, some anger. There's been some anger as well, some surprise. Remember, emotions drive people. Emotions are neither negative nor positive. They're not good, they're not bad, they just are. So we're going to go into breakout groups now. The system will tell you which room you're going to. And in your breakout rooms, share with each other from the list that you identified just now, and talk a little bit about what got you there. Go inside of yourself and talk about the emotions you've experienced and what you believe has been driving those emotions. We'll see you back in 7 minutes' time.
Yeah, click join.
I took the opportunity to go through the chat, and a few persons shared uncertainty.
The
Very
time
nice.
went really quickly though.
Yeah, it says when you're having fun.
We were now
Anxiety and
getting
fear.
deep. We were now getting deep.
We're now getting deep into it. Good.
Yes.
Share a little bit about the conversation you had. How many groups did we have? How many breakout rooms did we have?
We had 9 rooms.
9 rooms. So let's do room 3, 6, and 9. Anybody from room 3 wants to just quickly talk about the experience you had there?
Okay, our participants or persons within the group shared a variety of emotions that they would have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
The most common one for all of us was fear, and other emotions shared included some element of joy, some surprise, as well as some distrust.
Okay.
Those were the main ones that came out, but there were only 4 persons who shared from the group.
Okay.
As someone said, the time went quickly.
Yes. So remember you said that emotions are messages. They're neither good nor bad, negative or positive. They're just simply messages. When you're experiencing fear, there is some sense in you about loss. You're about to lose something, or you have lost something. You are about to. There's a fear. There's a projection of loss that you're going to lose something. Yeah. Surprise means something has happened that has been unexpected. In that regard, something has happened that's been unexpected. Anybody else? Let's go to room 6. Thanks. Let's go to room 6.
There are a number of responses in the chat. One person from group 6 indicated, when I first learned about COVID-19, fear was the very first emotion which I experienced,
Yes.
not knowing what to expect. The extent of the situation and how it would affect Barbadian life as a whole. And someone said that those emotions were what they were experiencing as well.
That's right. The ones that were listed before. All right. Room 9.
That was my group. We had just about 4 people who shared, but like everybody else said, the emotions were sadness, a lot of fear, but still some joy. And the joy came from primarily spending time with family and
Okay.
getting to know them better. The fear came from not knowing what to expect and being in the vulnerable category as well, not knowing what would happen to you, you know, and of course the sadness, because of all the death and the sickness associated with it would have left many of us in that state of emotion.
Right. And so part of emotional intelligence is being able to what we call validating our emotions. Emotions, again, I repeat, they're neither negative nor positive, they just are. So when I can talk about my emotions, this is what I'm feeling. And I'm feeling this way because I'm validating my feelings. And I do that for myself, but I should also be positioning myself to validate the feelings that others are experiencing as well. So what you just experienced was an exercise in what we call emotional literacy. Being able to identify, being able to recognize, understand, name, talk about my emotions. Okay. So did you also observe that we have certain commonality in those feelings? Did you notice that there's a lot of commonality? That even
Yes.
though we had these different groups, we all essentially experience, to some degree, the same kinds of emotions. What does that awareness do for you?
It causes us to realize, or cause me to realize, that we think we are so different, but we're really very, very similar, or almost the same.
Yes.
Experience the same things.
Yes. Yeah. And tend to respond differently. You know, some of us will respond. The initial stimulus will create the emotional response. Now, how long you linger there is another conversation. Some will linger in that place of fear for an extended period of time. Some will recognize it and move on. And the ability to move on is really that function about around your emotional intelligence. Okay, let's switch the conversation away from emotions, the pure conversation about emotions. Let's talk about now how we tend to engage in this whole question of change. This time, we're going to go back into breakout rooms, and your conversation is going to be about, there are going to be 3 conversations, depending on which room you are in. So one set of rooms, their conversation is going to be about what has changed.
Mr. Olton, if I may, I
Yes.
think we lost your
Your audio for
voice,
like,
your audio for a bit.
Oh, there. I'm not sure what's happening. Is it back now?
We
It
can
is
hear
back.
you quite fine right now.
Okay, not sure why that happened. So, those one set of rules will be discussing what are some of the changes we've experienced in our lives over the past 10 years. Another set of rules will be discussing what has life been like in those times where there's been little or no change. And the third set of rooms are going to be discussing how we tended to respond to it individually, how we tended to respond to change in the past. How many rooms do we have?
We have 9
rooms. Okay. So rooms 1, 2, and 3. Again, the system will prompt you which room you are in. Room 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be discussing the changes that have taken place in your life in the last 10 years.
Is question 1.
Question 1. Rooms 4, 5, and 6, your discussion is going to be what has life been like in those times where there's been little or no change. And in rooms 7, 8, and 9, your conversation is going to be, how have I tended to respond to change in the past? When I look back over my life, with all these changes that have taken place, how have I tended to respond to change in the past? Time is going to fly, so go straight for it. See you back in 7 minutes. Yes,
I'm
please.
going to send them to the breakout rooms, and then I will send the questions to the rooms as well, so they
Sure.
can have preliminary discussion. So that, and then when the question comes, they would know.
Thank you most kindly.
You're
See
most welcome.
you back in 7 minutes.
Fun.
Hello.
Yes, we
Hello,
can
we're
hear
back.
you.
I can hear
Okay, okay. It was a question. Nobody responded. Okay, fine. So, you had a conversation. There were 3 conversations taking place. One was, what have been some of the changes over the last 10 years? So we've had some babies, we've gotten married, we've changed residence, we've changed jobs, we've gotten promoted. Did those kind of things emerge in your conversation? Rules 1, 2, and 3? Somebody else sort of, the mic is open, there's all the noise in the background. You might need to mute all and then let the person go back up their mic. Thanks. So we've graduated, changed residence, we built a house, sold a house, changed locations, changed jobs, gotten married, had baby 1, baby 2. Those are the kind of changes that have taken place. Nobody's speaking to me.
Yes.
Yes,
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 yes.
yes.
So that when we really think about it, change is constant. Change is a constant factor in our lives. It is just constant. Number 2, I'm going to assume, I'm going to guess that in your conversations, rooms 4, 5, and 6, you came to the conclusion that when there's little or no change taking place, that life is boring, life is dull, you become stagnant, there's no growth in those times. Did I guess correctly?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So change is not only constant, change is the very nature of life's journey. And thirdly, your conversation was about how we tend to respond to change. What should emerge from your conversation is that change is very personal. The how we respond to change is really a function of our internal state, is a function of our perspective of ourselves, our perspective of life, so that how we respond to change is highly personal. I say fear, you say fear, but to what degree was that fear experienced? And how long did that fear last in us, in any one of us? Those answers are going to be determined by our own internal state, the perspective that we bring to life. So let's talk about perspective. Has anybody seen this equation before? That sounds like a no. This equation says the events in our lives plus our responses, the R, provide or produce the O, the outcomes in our lives. The events, E, plus how we respond, produces the outcomes of our lives. That whatever life experience we have, ultimately is going to be a function of two things. The stimulus, that is the event, plus our response. Let's look at that equation a little closer. That equation, if put as a narrative, looks like this. That life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond. That in the scheme of your happiness, your growth, your fulfillment, your effectiveness, your success, all of those things, they are more determined by how you respond than by the thing that has happened in your life. It is not as important what happens in life as to how you respond to the things that have happened in life. Peter Drucker, who one of the management gurus from the 70s and 80s, he puts it this way, talking about perspective. He says, the greatest danger in the times of turbulence, the greatest danger that we are facing today in the midst of COVID-19, Drucker said, it is not the turbulence, it is not COVID-19, it is if we continue to act today based upon the perspectives that we had about life yesterday. He says it is to act with yesterday's logic, yesterday's way of thinking, yesterday's way of reasoning. The greatest danger in the times of turbulence, it is not the turbulence, it is not the event. He says it is to act with yesterday's perspectives, yesterday's logic, yesterday's wisdom. Stephen Covey, one of my favorite authors, he puts it this way. He says, nothing breeds failure like success. That something has made us successful and we keep holding on to it. But if the dynamics have changed and we keep applying old methods, old ways of thinking, then when today's dynamics present, we will not be successful. Another thing he puts it this way. He says significant breakthroughs have always been significant break risks. That we've got to break with old ways of thinking if we're going to be effective in today's space and experience. So let me suggest to you what the new perspective needs to be. Remember I said to you that these surfers have an awareness? Here's the awareness I'm bringing to you. You've heard all of your life that the only thing that remains constant in life is change. That is absolutely not true. Change is not the only constant in life. There are four others. Number one, opposites. That in every moment, every single moment of our lives, we are faced with an opposite, with opposites. We don't necessarily recognize that we are, but we are faced with opposites, good and bad, right and wrong, left and right, hot and cold. They just exist. Life just exists in a constant state of opposites. That it is now 11:30 in Barbados, 11:30 a.m. It is 11:30 p.m. halfway around the world. Because life is about opposites. And because life is about opposites, we are always in a position where we are being asked, forced, called on to make choices. We are always constantly being asked to make choices. Am I going to go left or go right? Am I going to tell the truth or am I not going to tell the truth? Am I going to turn up or am I not going to turn up? Because I have that power of choice. So life is about opposites. Opposites forces us into a position where we're always choice making. The challenge is that while we control our choices, we don't control the consequences. Each choice we make has a consequence. The consequence we don't determine. The consequence is determined by a set of natural laws. So look back at these surfers. To be able to surf, they have to be able to get to a certain speed. They have to be traveling slightly faster than the wave to be able to ride through the wave, because there's certain laws of physics that they must attend to. So that there's a whole body of principles that govern life. If we constantly face life knowing that I have to make choices because life is about opposites, I have now to be careful and deliberate in my choice making. In emotional intelligence, we say we have to become intentional. We don't just act. We think before we act. We call that consequential thinking. And when we think about our decisions, the choices we're going to make, we always ask ourselves, what is the principle that is at work? Because it is the principle that is going to determine the outcome of the choice that I make. We control our choices. The consequences of our choices are controlled by God's natural laws. So in emotional intelligence, we talk about applying consequential thinking. When you can't go outside, go inside yourself. What is my perspective? What is the internal state that I am bringing to the experience that I am currently having? One perspective is the perspective of pessimism. If my perspective of life is that of being a pessimist, or from the perspective of pessimism, whatever has happened, whatever is happening, I am seeing it as permanent, can't be changed. I am seeing it as pervasive, as characterizing the sum of my life. Here we go again. And I see myself as powerless. If that is my internal state, that internal state is going to determine how I see and respond to the changes that are taking place in my life. But life is about opposites. So the opposite of optimism is pessimism. If my perspective, if my internal state is one of optimism, whatever is happening, I'm going to tell myself, this is temporary. This too shall pass. This will not last forever. Don't know how long it will last, but I know it's not going to last forever. If my perspective is one of optimism, I'm going to see what is happening as a blip on the screen, on the radar, as isolated. It does not define me. It does not define the sum of my life. It is perverse. It is disruptive, yes, but it does not define who I am, and it does not define the sum of my life. It is but a segment of my life experience. And finally, if my perspective is one of optimism, I'm going to tell myself there's something I can do. Again, it may be so perverse in this moment that I don't know what I can do. But my head tells me, I tell myself, there is something that I can do. There's some effort that I can make that will see me right out, right through, and right past this moment in my life. Life is about opposites. What is going to be your perspective? Am I going to take the perspective of a pessimist, or am I going to take the perspective of the optimist? If I take the perspective of the optimist, and I recognize that there's something I can do, I then have to ask myself, where do I focus my energies? Where do I focus my effort? And again, I borrow from Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the things he says in that book, he says is, don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about. That in all of the perversion and disruption in our lives these last 8 weeks, that there are things that we can do that will allow us to find peace, happiness, but also prepare ourselves for life past this. I suggest the model of what we call the 4 dimensions of life. That model says that our lives are a function of the physical being, the mental being, the emotional social being, and the spiritual being. So where do I focus energy? I focus my energy, I use my time, and I use my resources in exercise, taking care of this temple, this body. Because this time is going to pass. When this is past, what state will my body be in? If I just sit back and lay back, my muscles are going to atrophy. So I need to take care of this body. So I have a plan for my exercising. And I'm careful with my nutrition, with my diet, with what I eat. I'm even more deliberate now because I'm not as active as I was 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks before because we've been in lockdown. So I have to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate about my diet, about what I put into my system. I also have to be deliberate in how I expose myself to the stressors in life. So that includes my social media, my news. You know, I need to turn off television more and, you know, spend less time watching CNN and MSNBC with and Trump and all that stuff is just going on and on and on and on and on. Why? I'm doing that because I recognize the stress that my mind and body undergo as a result of exposing myself to that. So I become intentional and deliberate in how I expose myself to the stressors in life. He says, don't let the things that you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about. I can do a great deal about the development of my mind during this time. So what books am I reading? What visualizing? What looking into the future? Trying to contemplate, you know, where is this going to go? And in doing that, what plans do I put in place? How do I ready myself for the life after this? They say that life is best lived looking forward. It is best understood looking back. Perhaps in this time, I can journal. I can document the experience. So that when I come out of it, I can look back and ask myself, what were the lessons that were learned? What lessons did I learn? What were the lessons for me to learn? So journaling is one of the things I keep doing this moment that will allow me to be wiser going forward. There's a plethora of free online courses. Do I take advantage of them? Because that's in my control. I can engage in my continuous development through online courses and skill development. YouTube is a wonderful place it can be a wonderful place to get information and work on developing one's skills. Don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about, Stephen Covey. At this emotional, social level, what are we talking about? How can I serve? You know, can I take my attention off myself and my needs for a moment and try to figure out who do I share time and space with that I can be of service to them? Who in my circle might need some empathy at this time? Who in my circle are people I may be able to collaborate with and find synergistic responses to the challenges that we're facing? And how do I develop that sense of inner peace and regard? It's that regard and being at peace. One moment. Just need to get a little water. Be at peace. And the fourth dimension is the spiritual. What do I do in this time that allows me to connect with my purpose, my vision, my mission, my values in life? Someone spoke earlier about strengthening their prayer life. What do I do in terms of developing my prayer life? My meditation, creating stillness and quietness so that I can connect with my higher power. Because that's where I'm going to find a lot of the answers that I need in this time. I repeat, he says, don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about. That is where the wisdom resides. He says, the goal isn't to get rid of all of your negative thoughts or negative feelings. And I said earlier that feelings are neither negative or positive, they just aren't. It's not to get rid of your feelings, but the goal is to be able to change your response to the emotions that erupt inside of you. What's going to be your perspective? And how you respond is going to be a function of your perspective. What perspective are you going to choose to take? One of optimism or one of pessimism? I say choose optimism. The organization with which I'm associated is 6 Seconds. 6 Seconds. And Josh Friedman is one of the founders and is presently the CEO of 6 Seconds. And he put out a piece early in the COVID experience talking about optimism in the face of COVID.
How's your optimism doing with coronavirus? I think a lot of people are confused about the meaning of optimism, and they think it's just sticking a smile on it and pretending everything's fine. But at 6 Seconds, we use the term exercise optimism because it's work, it's effort. And it's when we're struggling that we most need to do that work. It's when we're struggling that we look around and we say, it's time for me to cross over this river and see that I'm on this side where I don't see possibilities, but somewhere ahead of me, there's another perspective. There are 3 bridges to cross this river and find the optimistic side. The first is to recognize that we can do something. We might not know what it is, but there is a way. We will find something where we can put our energy. The second is that while there are many problems and there's a lot that's affecting us in a negative way, not everything is affected. And the third is that time is passing and the future will be different. Let me give you a concrete example. We're all trying to wash our hands and scrub down with disinfectant, and it's easy to look at that and say, oh, we're in a dangerous world, something's out to get me. And when we're washing our hands, what if we see it as a way of contributing? What if we see that as a way of saying, I'm doing something to make the world a better place for my family, for my community, for people around me? And when we engage with the people around us with this optimistic orientation, it liberates for them some capacity, some energy, some creativity. And it's in that space that we can actually solve problems. When we're able to engage with people knowing that we can find a path forward, even though we don't know what it is, it liberates in them the energy and creativity to be able to look ahead and explore possibilities. And it liberates in us the energy that we need in order to look forward. When we're in a challenging circumstance, our vision often narrows. We get very focused on what's wrong, and we lose energy. And it's like this heaviness drags us down. And I've been there. And the answer is to cross these bridges, one little step at a time. There is a way forward. There are places that things are going well, and time is passing. It's going to change. Colin Powell said, optimism is a force multiplier. There's a ripple effect as you're able to have this conversation with people around you, with empathy, with openness, with directness, to be able to say, I know that we're struggling and we will find a way through it.
Great. So we're going to post our second poll at this time. And the poll is going to ask, what are your key takeaways from our time together this morning? What are your key takeaways? And they will give you some options. Choose as many as you think apply to you. What are the key takeaways for me? Again, make a note, because we're going to ask you to share these when you go back into your breakout room. So make a note of your choices and take them back with you when you go to your breakout room. So what are your key takeaways from this morning? There'll be a second poll, the third poll that is after this, and that's going to ask you, what is one thing you're going to do differently as a result of the time you spent with us today? This one says, what are your key takeaways from our webinar? Choose as many as resonated with you. Good. So if we can look at the results.
And the results.
Okay. Life is essentially about choice making, absolutely. And being intentional about it, not just making choices, but giving thought, pausing, creating space between stimulus and response, between the event and our response. Kobe says, in that space between what has happened and your response lies your growth and your happiness. It's called consequential thinking. That is followed by life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond. I can learn to certain ways of change. Excellent. 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 Okay, if we can post the poll number 3, it says, what is one thing you're going to do differently? Coming out of our time together. And you get to choose one. Yeah, show the results, yes? Right. Constantly choose what to think, feel, and do in the face of change. Powerful. Excellent. And find ways to collaborate. That is also important. Shift focus into control. That is also important. Yes? Okay. So if you can take the next 7 minutes and go back into your breakout rooms and share with each other your key learning, what resonated with you, and your sense of your plan of action going forward coming out of today's learning. So we see you back in all of, let's do 5 minutes, in 5 minutes time. And welcome back. Thank you for sharing. It has been my absolute privilege and pleasure to have spent this last hour and some with you. I trust that for most, if not all of you, it was a period of learning, and that there is something, however small, you're going to take away that will add significant value to your life. I wish you well. Continue to be safe, honor all of the protocols, and we will get through this together. God bless. I'm going to hand you back over to our moderator for the morning, Miss Sheldine Senswani.
Thank you, Tony. And Tony, as you were conducting the webinar, I just wanted to share a few comments with you that were captured in the chat space.
Sure.
You recall that when you posed the question where you displayed the slide with the waves, and you invited us to share what we saw when we looked at the waves. Some of our colleagues responded, danger and constant change, people, waves, water, people willing to take a risk,
Yes.
balancing and adapting to the changing dynamics of moving water.
Yes, powerful, powerful, yes.
You also challenged us with the question, what have you been feeling? Many persons responded, fear and anxiety, fear and concern, anxious, sometimes hopeful, other times joyful.
And that's fine, that's fine. Remember I said emotions are neither negative or positive? Here's another piece. Emotions were designed for your survival. Wow.
There are also some positive comments shared. One lesson I learned is to take each day as it comes. Value the small things in life. The webinar has been an eye-opener. I always thought emotions were good or bad. We spend a lot of time worrying and not looking for the positives.
That's right, yes. Thank you most kindly. Excellent feedback, comments. Like I said, our next full program in emotional intelligence commences June 13th. You can get in touch with us and we'll give you some more information.
Wonderful. Well, colleagues, this is all the time we have for our webinar today, and I imagine you're probably more relaxed by now and have enabled your attitude of gratitude, according to Mr. Olton.
Yes.
Mr. Olton, it's really been a pleasure working with you today, and on behalf of the team at the Learning and Development Directorate, we want to thank you so much for your intervention at this time. The tools you have offered are timely and I'm sure will serve us in many facets of our lives. To you participants, we thank you for your participation and interaction and encourage you to reach out to your colleagues by sharing some of the information imparted to you today. Please look out for a follow-up email that will contain a copy of the recording of today's webinar and a PDF of the slides so that you can review any information that you missed. We also invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel to review recent webinars and to be updated on any new content posted. On behalf of the Director General, as well as the team here at the Learning and Development Directorate, we thank you for joining us. I'm Sheldine Santwali. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend ahead. Goodbye for now.
And stay safe.
And stay safe, absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.